I was Chloe Jenkins, 19 years old, a sophomore at the state university nestled right outside of Boulder, Colorado. My life was pretty great. I loved the mountains, the crisp air, and spending my weekends hiking the trails. My classes were interesting, and I had a close group of friends. I also had Mateo, my boyfriend, who was kind and funny, from a wealthy family in South America, and just generally made me feel incredibly happy. Life had a good rhythm, a comfortable predictability. But even a girl like me, who loved her routine, needed a break sometimes. Spring break was exactly that, a chance to let loose. I had been saving up for months, working extra shifts at the campus coffee shop to put aside $300 for spending money on our trip to South Padre Island, Texas. It felt like a small fortune, my own hard-earned cash for souvenirs, meals, and just having fun without worrying about my bank account. The problem started with the journey itself. All the bus seats for the university's organized trip were already booked. My roommate, Sarah, was going with her boyfriend and some of his fraternity brothers. Sarah was really sweet and always looking out for me. She knew how much I wanted to go with Mateo and our group. She mentioned it to her boyfriend, and he said there was space in a truck. His friend, a guy nicknamed Drugs, which should have been my first warning, was driving his truck with 3 other guys from their fraternity. I didn't know these guys well, just Sarah's boyfriend, and even him not very much. It was a little unsettling, traveling with 4 strangers, but the thought of South Padre, the warm sun, and being with Mateo made me push those worries aside. This was my chance, my only way to get there. I had to solve this transportation problem. The trip began, and I tried my best to be a good sport. I sat in the front seat for most of the drive, chatting with the guys, trying to make the 10-hour trip go by quickly. 3 of the 4 guys were actually pretty decent. They were friendly, shared their snacks, and seemed genuinely happy to have me along. But the 4th guy, the one who owned the truck and whose nickname was Brock, was a completely different story. From the moment we pulled out of Boulder, he was a massive jerk. He flat out refused to drive, even though it was his truck. Instead, he sprawled out in the back seat, getting high the entire time, oblivious to anyone else's comfort or the effort it took to get us all there. He acted like his mere presence was a gift to us. All of our luggage, including my carefully packed suitcase with my $300 tucked away, was piled in the back of the open truck bed. I didn't think much of it at the time. I just focused on getting to South Padre. Every hour felt like an eternity, but I kept telling myself it would be worth it. I even took long stretches at the wheel, navigating us through the endless highways, just trying to contribute and make the best of a bad situation. My initial problem, the uncomfortable ride, was slowly starting to chafe at my good nature. Brock's rudeness chipped away at my patience. When we finally pulled into South Padre Island, the relief was immense. Mateo was waiting for me, his face lighting up when he saw me. It felt like stepping out of a long, bad dream into the sunshine. I quickly grabbed my backpack, thanked the guys for the ride, and then I turned to Brock. Despite his awful behavior, I handed him $100 for gas, trying to be polite and mature, wanting to leave on a positive note. He just grunted, not even looking me in the eye. I wished them all a great spring break and practically ran into Mateo's arms. That night, after a delicious dinner and a walk on the beach, I started getting ready to go out to one of the big beach parties. I opened my suitcase, reaching for my purse, and a cold dread washed over me. My $300, the cash I had worked so hard for, was gone. Completely. Every single bill. My heart sank and my hands started to shake. I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that it was Brock. The other guys had been too nice, too normal. It had to be him, the entitled jerk who couldn't even bother to drive his own vehicle. Tears welled up in my eyes, hot and angry. I felt so violated, so foolish for trusting him. I started crying, the stolen money representing more than just cash. It was my independence, my hard work, my sense of security for the trip, all taken away by someone so undeserving. Mateo held me tight, his face hardening with anger. He told me not to worry, that he would cover my share for the trip, but I could see how truly furious he and his brother, a very serious and protective guy, were. My problem had become so much worse. I was no longer just dealing with an unpleasant travel companion, I was dealing with a thief. I felt helpless, exposed, and utterly defeated. The rest of the week was a blur of trying to have fun despite the bitter taste of betrayal. Mateo was wonderful, making sure I didn't miss out on anything because of the stolen money, but a part of me felt diminished, always aware of what had happened. Then, almost a week later, we were at a popular beachfront bar, the music thumping, the air buzzing with energy. I was laughing with Mateo when through the crowded entrance I saw Brock and his group pull up in that familiar truck. My heart leaped into my throat. The anger, the shame, the helplessness, it all rushed back. I instinctively grabbed Mateo's arm, my voice a whisper. It's them, the guys from the truck, that's Brock's truck. I was shaking, fear mixing with a renewed wave of fury. Mateo looked at me, then at the truck, his eyes narrowing. He told me not to worry, that we would leave. But then he asked me again, very calmly, which truck is theirs, Chloe? I pointed it out, a beat-up, dark blue pickup. He said he would be right back and squeezed my hand. Then he and his brother, with a look of quiet determination, walked out of the bar. I waited, heart pounding, trying to make myself small, hoping they wouldn't see me. It felt like an eternity. A few minutes later, Mateo and his brother walked back in, a different kind of calm about them. Mateo grabbed my hand, a subtle smile playing on his lips, and we left. We didn't talk about what they had done, but I felt a strange sense of anticipation, a quiet understanding that something had shifted. We had an amazing time for the rest of the night, and for the last couple of days of our spring break. When the week finally ended, Mateo surprised me. He said he wasn't going to take the bus back to Boulder and that he had booked us 2 plane tickets out of Brownsville, Texas, to fly home. It was a wonderful, luxurious end to a trip that had started so sourly. As we sat in the airport, waiting for our flight, a comfortable silence between us, Mateo leaned in. "Hey, Chloe," he said, a glint in his eye, "Brock is going to be pretty messed up." I looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, a strange mix of dread and curiosity bubbling inside me. He chuckled, a low, satisfied sound. "My brother and I, we put some sand in his gas tank. That truck is going to die shortly after they leave the island." A rush of conflicting emotions hit me. Part of me was shocked, another part felt a surge of raw, primal satisfaction. It wasn't my revenge, not something I would have done, but it was for me, for my $300, for my violated trust. I had mixed feelings, for sure, but we were already on our way, leaving South Padre and all its troubles behind us. There were no cell phones back then, so I couldn't check on the immediate aftermath. About 2 days after I got back to Boulder, settling back into my routine, my roommate Sarah came bursting into our dorm room. She looked wide-eyed, a mix of disbelief and amusement on her face. "Chloe, guess what happened to Brock?" she exclaimed. I tried to play it cool, acting innocent. "Oh, I thought I saw them once, but I wasn't sure." Sarah launched into the story. "Their truck, the dark blue one, it broke down about an hour after they left South Padre. Completely crapped out on them in the middle of nowhere. The engine just died." She paused for dramatic effect. "They spent an extra 2 days stranded, waiting to get the truck fixed. Apparently they had to clear all the fuel lines, replace some pump, and get a whole new engine." My jaw must have dropped. The sand had done its work. The poetic justice of it all. Brock, who refused to drive his own vehicle, who stole my hard-earned money, was stranded with a broken-down truck. Sarah continued, and get this, Brock's dad was absolutely furious. He had to pay for all the repairs, and then he made Brock drive the truck all the way home and revoked his driving privileges. Said he couldn't be trusted with anything valuable. A slow, warm wave of satisfaction spread through me. It wasn't my hand that dealt the blow, but it was for me, and the consequences were even more far-reaching than I could have imagined. Brock, the entitled, lazy thief, got exactly what he deserved. His father's wrath and the loss of his truck privileges were the ultimate humiliation. It wasn't just a breakdown, it was a total dismantling of his arrogance. That day, I realized that karma, sometimes, needs a little help, and when it comes, it can be unexpectedly sweet. From then on, I paid closer attention to people's true colors, and I learned that sometimes, the most effective revenge is simply letting the consequences of a person's bad actions come back to haunt them, with a little nudge from those who care about you.